One sentence from a lawyer, 3 old keys, and a cracked leather folder with a dead queen's crest, all wiped 15 years of peaceful, cozy confidence in one morning. Prince William wasn't even looking at the legal document when the lawyer finally read the 4th sentence again, despite Camilla's son's stern request. Those 3 keys were in his hand. He was not making an offer. He was returning them. The execution in the room of records. At that massive wooden table, not a single person moved. Not King Charles, not Camilla, not her kids. Charles had spent years letting one extremely risky presumption that a vast 12,000-acre estate would eventually belong solely to Camilla's side settle like fine dust over this newly blended family. But the attorneys had just discreetly confirmed something completely vicious. It had never belonged to them, and it didn't now. The king did not drop his gaze to the ground because of that. On the last page of the document, beneath the signature of a man who everyone in the room had entirely forgotten about, was the ultimate humiliation. Allow me to establish the scene, because all you need to know about the power dynamics at work is revealed in the details of that chilly morning. Camilla's family gathered at the estate, anticipating a private standard formality 3 hours before those 3 keys were scheduled to be removed off the table. They didn't anticipate a dispute or a conflict. They anticipated paperwork. For more than 15 years, the estate, let's refer to it by its traditional name, Ravensmere, had been regarded as a settled business. Furthermore, we are not discussing a charming small summer cottage. 12,000 large expansive acres of excellent British land, a magnificent Jacobean manor. 42 completely operational cottages, 2 enormous functioning farms, and a private immaculate lake are all included. A collection of rare historical paintings that had never been included in any official inventory was also kept there. This particular detail demonstrates how fully satisfied everyone was with this arrangement. One of the brightest rooms upstairs was now referred to as Mr. Parker Bowles's study by the housekeeping workers. Someone on the crew had carefully placed pricey fresh flowers inside it that same morning. New flowers in a space they had already given to a new owner in their minds. Keep that particular picture in your thoughts. Those same flowers would be quietly brought out again by dusk. Then Prince William showed up. Please take note of his exact arrival, as that was the first warning sign that no one saw. The palace did not make a formal announcement or send out a grand royal motorcade. At precisely 8:46 in the morning, a single modest dark car slipped silently through the imposing eastern gates. He wasn't by himself either. Directly following him, 2 senior royal solicitors emerged from the car with identical black document cases. The second major caution is that. Here comes the final warning, though, which, if anyone had really grasped its importance, ought to have completely cleared the room. William was adamant about not going through the huge main doors. He walked around the side of the enormous ancient mansion, entirely avoiding the arching stone stairway. He went through the ancient abandoned estate office and traversed the damp, chilly gravel courtyard. Since Queen Victoria's reign, the raw land records have been kept under lock and key in this damp, chilly room. You have to think about this question. Why would the Prince of Wales overlook the opulent family drawing room? Why would he head straight to the dusty records room, ignoring the roaring fireplaces and his waiting family? The core of this narrative is the solution. It was never intended to be a cozy family get-together. The execution was lawful. William had arrived in the exact chamber where the murder weapon was safely stored. The tragedy of innocuous promises. You need to examine what Camilla's family actually thought, and more crucially, why they believed it, in order to fully comprehend why this particular meeting felt like a bombshell. They weren't just being conceited or avaricious. This was not a story they had invented. They had been repeatedly informed. A staff member discreetly told Camilla that William was in the building by 9 in the morning. According to reports, She thought he had come to talk about the impending, very costly upgrades. Given the lengthy, in-depth conversations regarding major renovations, this notion was very realistic. The manor's expansive east wing desperately needed extensive structural repairs. There were 2 old lead roofs that were seriously leaking. Even discussions about updating a few of the outside cottages for her extended family's year-round use had been going on. Insiders claimed that King Charles had openly and covertly supported all of this. Rich and powerful families frequently make silent pledges to one another because they know that no one will request written documentation. The king had said, "You'll always have Ravensmere," multiple times. These words were innocuous at first glance, but the once someone put real money into them because they had a strong belief in them, they lost their innocence. Camilla's family also made an investment to make sure unusual handcrafted furniture would fit through the antique entrances. They measured it and produced pricey architectural blueprints. A passionate relative even talked about introducing a group of pricey show horses to the southern paddocks of the estate. The vast underground wine cellar was shown to Camilla's kid, who was also told which old bottles were part of the home and which ones he may open at will. Imagine listening to this kind of discourse year after year. Imagine being greeted as the prospective owner each time your vehicle went through those imposing iron gates. Then picture Prince William entering the room with the frigid documents, placing a 6-page legal opinion on the wooden table, and whispering, "None of you were ever beneficiaries." The conference is completely transformed by this one sentence. It modifies their understanding of the past. Every heartfelt pledge now has a new meaning. There are legal issues with any planned remodeling. Every room they believe to be theirs is suddenly someone else's, to whom, though, Prince William declines to respond to the important question that is hanging over the table for the time being. Keep in mind that none of you ever benefited. It is strong but silent. He didn't scream or shout, "You've lost the estate." I've made the decision to retract his allegation. He didn't pound his fist. It would seem from those words that the estate was theirs to lose. Rather, he always utilized the past tense. He traveled back in time to just before any of them passed through those gates. He did more than simply ruin their future with 4 words. He rewrote the past 15 years as a major miscommunication. Years of measuring furniture, years of being shown the wine cellar, years of designating a space as their own study. It was all recast as having no legal validity at all, compared to sheer rage that is a harder, colder strike. Anger says, "You crossed me." William's statement is even worse. Nothing was ever available for you. The leather folder's ghost. Shortly around 9:20 a.m., Camilla arrived at the Cold Estate office. A few minutes later, clearly agitated Charles followed her. Not because of the legal circumstances, but rather because he hadn't been informed of this issue in private beforehand. This was the first indication of who was actually in charge in the room. With one hand resting on a faded, broken leather folder, Prince William continued to sit beside the chief royal solicitor. Charles quickly looked at the folder and recognized the worn gold crest on it. The Queen Mother, his grandmother, owned it. Charles's confidence vanished in that instant. Without reading any court records, he knew that something important was taking place. He had a gut feeling that he had just misplaced something significant. He had no idea what it was. This is what was inside the damaged leather folder. This is the point at which a typical family dispute turns into something far more complex. Charles did not use his own funds to purchase Ravensmere. Camilla did not receive the estate from the state. The majority of people are shocked to hear this. It wasn't typical crown estate property, which isn't always owned by the current ruler. Rather, it was concealed in a private family settlement. This legislative framework was carefully drafted decades ago and had undergone 3 distinct revisions. Since these alterations create the invisible trap, a detailed examination of them is crucial. The first modification prevented the land from being sold. The ancient house was protected from demolition by the second modification. The succession clause, which no one in that packed room bothered to verify, was secured by the third modification. This regulation specified the next beneficiary of the estate. Legally speaking, what Charles actually possessed was a life interest. Let me explain. It is essential to comprehending the whole narrative. You can use something for the rest of your life if it is a life interest. Charles could throw parties, maintain the gardens, live in Ravensmere, and even make some money from the 2 operational farms. But he had a serious issue. He could never transfer the estate permanently to anyone who wasn't a member of the royal bloodline listed in the first treaty, nor with a handwritten letter, nor with a silent vow, not even with a royal decree as king. Throughout his life, he had the house's keys, but he was never legally able to choose who would inherit it after him. He boldly pledged to do so for 15 years in a row. Then Camilla's daughter asked a valid question that we could be thinking about as well. Why can't the monarch decide what happens after his death if he has complete authority throughout his lifetime? The crowd froze when a royal solicitor quietly opened the leather folder and gave the response, since he was deprived of the option prior to getting married. Before the wedding, not after. This nasty quarrel had been foreseen by a very clever person. They anticipated Camilla's family relocating to the estate and anticipated Charles marrying her. Years before anybody else knew that possibility existed, they had shut the door. The room believed Queen Elizabeth was the brains behind such action. Everyone stared at William in silence, waiting for him to say the name of the late queen. He didn't. She wasn't the one. In late 1999, the legally binding amendment was signed. This occurred 6 years prior to Charles's marriage to Camilla, and 3 years prior to the death of the Queen Mother. The unsteady signature of the Queen Mother was accompanied by a second, much bolder one, Margaret the Princess's. The atmosphere was now extremely intimate, in addition to being tense from a legal standpoint. The 99-year checkmate and the Margaret Protocol. Behind closed doors, Princess Margaret was known to everyone who truly knew this family. She was perceptive, cautious with strangers, and fiercely protective of the family's personal belongings. According to old records, Margaret voiced a serious concern at a trustee meeting. The initial settler never addressed Ravensmere's potential for a second marriage to a family member, which disturbed her. She didn't outright accuse anyone, but she didn't have to. Her argument was made apparent by the legal language she insisted on. Everyone at the table was silenced at how severe it was. No spouse, spouse's kid, or descendant who is not directly descended from King George VI will ever acquire beneficial ownership, a controlling stake, or permanent title. Think about what that actually means for a moment. It is far more brutal than simply being called out and ignored. That harsh clause does not mention Camilla's children. 2 royal women took a risk in 1999 to safeguard the future of their family. Even prior to marriage, they prohibited a spouse's relatives from inheriting property. Princess Margaret and the Queen Mother's keen awareness of how the dynamics of the royal family would shift is demonstrated by this move. Charles and Camilla were not officially wed at the time, and it would take several more years for the public to acknowledge them as a couple. Margaret's intention to prevent the Parker Bowles family from receiving the fortune is demonstrated by her ability to foresee family changes even before a formal marriage. Although Prince William's perspectives on contemporary issues are frequently discussed, he carried on his great-aunt's plan. William produced a signed paper from November 1999 that refuted King Charles's prior private assurances, when Charles claimed he was unaware of the exclusion provision. Charles was unable to speak for a few tense moments, and the solicitor had to intervene to carry on the discussion. Charles's predicament makes me feel sorry for him, because it demonstrates how intelligent people may make mistakes. It was not made clear in the 1999 contract he signed that his future wife's family would not inherit. A convoluted financial plan pertaining to royal domains, including Ravensmere, which was only mentioned twice, concealed this crucial data. Charles might have signed it hastily without fully comprehending its meaning, or believed it might be altered at a later time. William was the ultimate decision-maker, but it could have been changed with the approval of the other trustees. Understanding this background makes it easier to understand why Charles attempted to work out adjustments with William, who questioned who would profit from the trust. William turned down the idea after learning that Camilla's family would profit from the new trust. In an attempt to preserve the estate within the royal family, Charles then attempted to offer Camilla's family a lengthy lease rather than ownership. But William rejected the notion as well, because any lease longer than 21 years required unanimous consent from the trustees. Therefore, Charles's aspirations remained unfulfilled. The fatal error in the books. Let's talk about the two ideas that were turned down. They disclose crucial information regarding a covert struggle. Loud discussions were not the cause of this fight. Legal details were the main focus. The initial suggestion was simple. It recommended setting up a trust with Camilla's children listed as the beneficiaries. It was obvious and fell straight into the 19999 regulations trap. William hurriedly brushed it off. The second plan was not the same. It demonstrated that someone had carefully examined the 1999 amendment and sought out any weaknesses. It was clever to offer a 99-year lease for $1 annually. It complied with every regulation on paper. Nothing formally changed hands. The royal dynasty retained the title. For a century, it was just rented out to individuals who would never be able to acquire it. Someone on Charles's side was aware of the legal problems and made an effort to resolve them. This suggests that there was more to it than a simple miscommunication. You don't unintentionally come up with a complicated solution for a provision that you were unaware of. The second proposal demonstrates that someone was aware of the 1999 amendment, but nonetheless made an effort to get around it. A gap had previously been closed by the Queen Mother's amendment, which required unanimous consent for any arrangement lasting more than 21 years. I became aware of what those two royal women accomplished in 1999 as a result of this. They didn't merely create a straightforward regulation. They blocked such routes long before they realized the cunning ways a future king may attempt to get around it. They stopped a long lease that was deceptively camouflaged, a new trust, and a straight transfer. It seems as though they have a strong reply ready for every move Charles would make, protected for 26 years. This type of planning is different from standard estate planning. It demonstrates a thorough awareness of potential future developments and an unwillingness to allow feelings to cloud legal realities. You would think that was the end of it after these two adamant rejections. However, private contractors arrived at Ravensmere's gates just 3 weeks later. They concentrated on a thorough household survey, ignoring the leaky roofs. They examined the old kitchens, measured the entire west wing, and determined whether the lengthy nursery corridor could be transformed into opulent flats. Crucially, Prince William was kept in the dark. This was a grave error that escalated a little argument into a confrontation. William is in charge of a concealed estate maintenance account that was charged $18,400 for the survey. While evaluating routine roof repairs, William discovered an odd charge designated future occupancy adaptation. He did further research since he was curious about who would live in the big house. He discovered a furniture order that included a glass wine room and handcrafted mahogany storage when he opened up recent financial documents. Parker Bowles, not King Charles or Queen Camilla, gave the order. This demonstrated that Ravensmere was being readied as a long-term residence in violation of the 1999 amendment that forbade such ownership. Family conversations may be disregarded, but intent was evident in the financial records. William was compelled to take action when this order turned the family dispute into a legal issue. Hi viewers, are you outraged that Camilla's family secretly used royal trust funds to order custom mahogany furniture and a temperature-controlled wine room for an estate they had absolutely no legal right to own? yes or no. A trustee is neglecting their duties if they witness misappropriation of trust monies and take no action. William was legally required to react to Camilla's family's preparations. Checkmate for charity. Camilla protested in the cold estate office that all architectural surveys were really preliminary and that nobody had taken anything. The pricey furniture had not yet been placed, and no lease had been signed. Prince William wasn't accusing them of stealing, even though Camilla was technically right. He intended to demonstrate that they were getting ready to inherit something for which they had no legal rights. William told out that assurances are not legal ownership, referring to Charles's pledges, when Camilla's son furiously shoved the leather folder aside. William said that it was private until trust funds from the estate were spent, when King Charles suggested that this might have been easily handled in private. This brought attention to an important legal matter. Scandals are typically handled discreetly by royal families, but financial records can show everything, because the trust funds were utilized for a property that the legal beneficiaries did not occupy. William publicly contested the situation. Camilla felt the threat. She was concerned that William could check into all family settlements if he was willing to look into one property. William would receive the estate, Camilla's daughter pointed out, when they discussed inheritance, but only 9 days before he had given up his claim to Ravensmere. This posed a strange query. Why fight for an estate only to turn it down? William didn't want the estate, but it was clear from his actions that he wanted to be in charge of its destiny. He set off a series of events by renouncing his claim, which made it possible for Harry to inherit the inheritance. The settlement did not include Harry's name. It was unclear who would be left in the succession after Princess Anne made the decision to stand down. Charles, who wished to preserve the integrity of the estate, was alarmed when Prince Andrew entered the discussion. But Andrew's withdrawal from royal duties had already disqualified him. After Anne declined, William renounced, and Harry remained unnamed. Prince Edward was left. Camilla's kid asked them to reread the ruling. The only recipient of the Ravensmere estate would be Edward, Duke of Edinburgh. The catch was that Edward had agreed to accept the bequest in exchange for the estate not becoming his personal residence. Rather, its funds would go to a non-profit organization that helps injured soldiers, grieving families, and young people transitioning out of foster care. As a result, Edward gave away nearly all of the estate's advantages after inheriting it. Everyone at the table was taken aback by this, since they had anticipated a future king who would be avaricious. Rather, they lost it to a reserved man who refused to consider it his own. His altruistic gesture was not only admirable, but also a wise one. Edward might have been viewed by Camilla's family as a royal villain, motivated by ambition if he had claimed Ravensmere as his domain. It is impossible to see him as avaricious when he instead converted the estate into a foundation for grieving military families. This deed of generosity profoundly altered popular perception. Now the same farm was home to two quite different versions of the family. Veterans' retreats and ancient cottages were highlighted on one side, while luxury and comfort were portrayed on the other. Charles was worried by this silent contrast, because he recognized he had lost a big public story in addition to a house. William gave Edward's attorney 3 keys. There was only one chapel set aside for Edward's family to honor a loved one, and each key opened a different area of the estate. The solicitor pointed out that the prepared rooms will be returned to the estate when Charles confronted William about this agreement. Changes were evident by nightfall. The keys were transferred from under Charles's image to a plain box, and the nameplate was taken off. Edward's letter, "Let this house belong to those who need it," was found inside the box. Who then really prevailed that day? Was William the one who sacrificed the house in order to gain power, who Edward decided to donate his inheritance, or the two powerful women in 1999 who with a single firm declaration ensured the future of a blended family? Tell me exactly what you think in the comments section. Let's show the palace that true power isn't about claiming mansions. It's about protecting the vulnerable. Hit that subscribe button right now to show your unwavering support.